What is up, gamers? Stackswell's back at it again today with another video, a little something different for you today. Today I want to do a binder video, like a collection video. I always enjoy watching these, and I don't think enough of them exist in Flesh and Blood. This is in no way to flex. Obviously, there's definitely plenty of other content creators who have much nicer collections than me. Like one cold foil tunic is probably worth this entire binder, so it's in no way a flex. I always, like I said, enjoy watching these videos. I've never been able to contribute one though because my collection's just always been such a mess. I always had one binder similar to this where I put all of my expensive cards, and then I had like a 1K box of all of my Majestics. And over the off season, I was messing around with some different decks, and this system I had up until now just reached its tipping point and drove me crazy. I was ordering extra copies of cards that I already had just because I didn't know I had them, and then I was not ordering cards thinking I had them, and then when I went to go put the deck together, I would realize I was missing cards, and then I would have to order them and then wait a week or 2 weeks more to play the deck that I wanted to play. So I finally said enough is enough, and got organized, put all these binders together. So today we're going to be going over the Heavy Hitters binder. That's what I'm calling it. It is a collection for myself though, right? So it's not all just heavy hitter stuff. Obviously you see the Valiant Dynamos here. This is just my Warrior, Guardian, and why am I drawing a blank? Brute. This is my Warrior, Guardian, Brute binder. So kind of thematic towards heavy hitters there. And I was thinking about, there's like a lot of holes in the collection, right? Let's see if we could find something quickly here. Yeah, sure. So like there's holes in it, right? I only have 2 of those sabers and whatnot. And I was thinking about like, ooh, let me finish this so that way my first video could be a banger and it could be a perfect binder and yada, yada, yada. But I actually think the holes and the collection process itself is part of what makes it fun, part of what makes it enjoyable. This is one of the aspects I like the most out of trading card games, and I think a lot of people share that enjoyment. So yeah, come on with me. Let's go ahead, take a tour of the collection here. If you guys like this kind of video, it's so different than what I normally do. Please let me know in the comments down below. I don't want to waste anyone's time, so if you guys aren't enjoying it, I won't upload the rest. And if you guys are, yeah, I will upload the rest, so let me know. So let's start off with the grail of this binder, I think. This is the Valiant Dynamo's cold foil with the LSS stamp at the bottom. This is from the homie Sneep, so some sentimental value there. And it's from Las Vegas Nationals, when we had to draft Monarch, like right after Dust Till Dawn came out. So not the most fun time because I hate Monarch draft. But yeah, still a sick card, absolutely beautiful. The LSS stamp gives it that story behind it. Yeah, definitely the grail of the collection. I definitely won't be getting rid of that. And if I do, it probably will be back to Sneep. He's been threatening to try and trade for it back. And yeah, if it's going to go to anyone, it would definitely be him. But yeah, so cards like Dynamo, Iron Song versus Grains of Blood Spill. These are the kind of cards that I'm happy to max rarity, right? I want to get these cold foil. I want to max rarity them just because I know for the rest of this game's lifespan, a card like Valiant Dynamo will be a consideration, right? A card like Grains of Blood Spill will always be a consideration. Iron Song versus will always be a consideration. Moving on, I have the hatchets. I actually spec'd into these. I'm not normally a huge fan of buying these kind of cards when they're high because they're armory promos, so they always tend to dip. But I bought these when they were like $8 each before Heavy Hitters came out. It was just a super speculative buy that I made, not really even expecting it to pan out. And at first it wasn't looking good, but as the meta developed, yeah, I kind of won big on these with the introduction of Hatchet Dory. Probably should have sold them, but I kind of like Hatchet Dory, so I can't bring myself to sell them. I can't even bring myself to sell them, right? Because I like playing that deck. This Merciless Battle Axe. Here's a good one of a spec that hasn't played out yet, right? So this one, I took a dub on and whatnot. Merciless Battle Axe, not yet, but this new set is making me hopeful. Not, particularly the cards in the Hunted are making me excited for Merciless Battle Axe. Just kind of the design space that they're willing to go with the cards. So there's a lot of 0-cost cards that pump the next thing by 4. So it'll be a 0-cost card that pumps the next dagger by 4. And that's exactly what we need for Merciless Battle Axe. If we get a 0-cost pump the next axe attack by 4, which is obviously a design space that they're willing to go to, considering that that's what they did for the daggers, I could see them doing something similar for the Battle Axe. And you could see how like that kind of an effect, right? So 2 cards, you play that, pitch a blue, Battle Axe for what, 7 overpower. You could see how this kind of thing would start becoming a real and a good strategy at some point. You know, maybe it is a long shot with the things that have to happen for it to be good. But that's why I have it. It was, at the time I bought it, I think it was like $25, $30. We talked about on a market watch around the time I bought it. But yeah, that's why I have that. So I actually think that this one will play out for me one day. As opposed to these, I actually don't think that these top cards are ever going to, you know, go up a lot, right? It's not like an investment, these cards. I actually just so happen to have them. These cards, so yeah, let's go with this one. Very rare, like calling promos from back in the Monarch days. And then I think this one is a promo, like the winter promo from the Evergreen Armory kit that they tried to put out. It seems like it didn't really work, this Evergreen Armory kit that they tried to do. So it's pretty rare. A lot of the cards in it are quite valuable, and it's just a cool card from there. I don't think it's going to go up. I don't think Bastion of Unity is going to go up, but they look sick. They're pretty cool for a binder, so I threw them in there. I want to go out of my way to buy them, but you know, if you already have them, then cool. Unsheathed, here's an example of a hole in my collection. These 2 are non-foil, and this one is foil. I'm not big on foiling out like specializations and stuff, but these generic cards that seem like they're going to be good for a very, very long time, Blade Flurry, Spoils of War, Unsheathed, I need to get 2 more foil Unsheathed. It's just they're just way too expensive at the moment, as like the regular is like $10, and then at the time of recording this, the foil is like $25 or $30. That gap is just way too much for me. So I'm waiting for some of this hunted hype to die down a little bit, and then the foil Unsheathed to come back to reality, and then I'll work on swapping those out. So moving on to this page. So Kasai, while she is one of my favorite heroes in the game, I don't have her foil at all. I actually won a rainbow foil of her in the top 4 of what was it, an RTN or a ProQuest or whatever it was. But I actually sold it. And the reason I sold it is just because foiling your heroes is just like the worst investment you could be making in Flesh and Blood. Once this hero is LL'd, she's gone, right? Unless she's usable in the Living Legend format, which, like, as much as I love Kasai, like, let's be real with ourselves here, right? She's not going to be an LL All-Star. So, you know, if it's like a Marvel Briar or a Marvel Starvo or something like that, then I'd feel much, much better about buying a foil one. But for the cards that are like Kasai that aren't going to see LL play, yeah, let's just stick with the non-foils. I think that's the best way to build up a binder, to build up a collection, right? So to everyone who bought the Marvel Kasai when it first came out, you know, when it first came out, it was like $300, and now it's like $150, right? So that's just an instant 50% cut off the top. Whereas if you look at all these other cards that, you know, the big ones, that if you bought them foil instead of that Kasai at the same time, that same $300, just would have went so much farther, right? So that's part of the reason I hate foil heroes or investing in them. You know, if it's a hero I absolutely love, sure, but Kasai, I do love Kasai, but not so much that I'm gonna marvel her. Same goes for the Centauri Saber, one of my favorite weapons, but I only have a rainbow because the same thing. Once Kasai's gone, her signature weapon is the Centauri Saber, and that will be gone as well. And then you just have, you know, kind of a useless weapon forever, right? If it's like actually a good weapon, something like a Rosetta Thorn, that you know will be a timelessly good card in the Living Legend format, sure. But Centauri Saber is, like, let's be real with ourselves, it's not one of those cards, so I'm not excited to buy it. Courage of Bladehold, I think that it isn't as safe as something like a Blade Flurry or a Spoils, but it's very good in Kasai, and if there's any other specifically sword-based, combo-oriented, like a Blood on Her Hands style of deck, Courage will be good, but you know, not my favorite investment on this page or anything. Still a pretty cool card. Hot Streak, it was just cheap enough to justify the cold foil despite being Olympia's signature weapon. You know, if it's that cheap, then yeah, sure, get it. But Centauri Saber, you know, the cold foil is not cheap at all. Quicksilver Dagger, I think I just won both of these. I never bought them. But yeah, it seems like it could be making a resurgence here in the Hunted. A lot of people are trying to cook with this. Another thing worth mentioning too about the Quicksilver Daggers is they're not a signature weapon, right? So yeah, it's going to be a card in consideration for a long time coming, right? Moving on, Helm of Sharp Eye. I don't think that this card is like particularly good, and I think the odds of it being good are quite slim. But I will say that there's a chance, because this is one of the only headpieces Warrior has access to that offers you some kind of offensive value, right? So maybe you side deck against something like an Enigma, where the block value of like a Crown of Provenance or whatever isn't going to do you any good. You really need to just clear their board, and you know, Helm of Sharp Eye is like one of the only things that could potentially give you more offensive value that you wouldn't typically have. So I think that there actually is a world in which Helm of Sharp Eye could see play. Jubil, I never liked this card, so I've never been enticed to get it cold foil. I've just never thought it was a very good card. If you were a believer in it though, the cold foil, for how rare it is, I think is actually somewhat cheap. It's like $100, and that was one of those cold foils that I think you had to get first place at a ProQuest, not top 4. You had to specifically get first for the cold foil Jubil. So if you think it's a good weapon, I actually think it's a little bit underpriced, a little bit flying under the radar right now. Moving on, taking on the chin. One of my favorite cards in Kasai for sure. Could definitely also see play in Fang. I have high hopes for taking on the chin. Back when, you know, it was like Hatchet Dory meta or Kasai meta, whatever, when those warriors were heavily in the meta, taking on the chin was like $10 or $15. And at the time of recording, it's like taking on the chin's like $2. So crazy good pickup here. If you don't have it, I recommend getting a playset. Moving on, visit the Golden Anvil. I actually got these foil, and I wish I didn't, because it's a specialization. I've kind of changed the way that I look at cards and investments overall in this game. So what kind of radicalized me on this type of thing is my Icelander deck was totally max rarity, and then once Icelander hit LL, you know, I paid $600 for that cold foil Icelander, and now it's worth like $200, right? And then all of the cards in that deck, you know, Frost Hex and everything, a lot more expensive at the time than they are now. Obviously, she's LL'd. But I could have put that money at the same, like in the same time period, I could have put that money into more generically good cards, right? So yeah, a little bit of a regret there. So yeah, even things like Visit the Golden Anvil, if the price isn't close enough, I'm no longer going to buy foils of Specializations or talent class combos, right? So if there was like there's not, but if it was like a Shadow Warrior card, I wouldn't be interested in foiling it out, because it's just too narrow, too specific. But yeah, I do still need a third Visit the Golden Anvil. Just any kind of Golden Anvil, I really should buy one. Moving on, Glint the Quicksilver. There's the 4 class, like generic class cards in Welcome to Wraith, the 4 generic majestic class cards. So there's the Warrior one that's not a spec, that's Glint. There's the Brute one that's not a spec, that's Blood Rush Bellow, Ancestral Harmony for the Ninja, and Spinal Crush for the Guardian. Fantastic. All of them are fantastic cards, fantastic pickups, and they always like kind of ebb and flow in price as their respective class comes in and out of the meta, right? So we recently seen Spinal Crush spike up super hard because of Jarl. We're now seeing Glint spike up super hard because of the Hunted. Do yourself a favor, and as they go down, pick up your playset of foils, because one day they're gonna stop coming down, right? Right now they're doing like this jumping up and down, back and forth thing. Eventually they're gonna stop jumping down, right? It's gonna be up and stay up, and then yeah, we've seen it time and time again with plenty of cards. But those big 4 cards from WTR I think are undervalued at the moment. Prize Galea, the cold foil. While it is a spec, and I just kind of did, you know, tell you guys you shouldn't be foiling out your specialization cards, I do kind of stand by that. I'm going to change, yeah, like I said, how I approach it in the future. But I think I won all of these, so it's not like I bought any. And this cold foil specifically is an interesting one because you need 2, maybe 3 of it, thanks to Visit the Golden Anvil. And it was a split armory month. They tried like experimenting with this new prize system because they had 6 heroes and only a 3-month season. Every month the cold foils were, you know, typically there's 4 of a cold foil, right? So lately we've had 4 burn up shock or 4 comet storm shock or whatever, right? But during this time they were experimenting with the prize structure, and they had 2 prize Galea and 2 of the Kasai one or whatever. And then the next month they had 2 of the Betsy helmet and then 2 of the Victor helmet, you know? So there's even less of these, and players need even more of these than a typical cold foil. So if you're looking to spec in some Olympia cards, that's definitely a good one to do, because, you know, people don't always love to cold foil or to foil out their main deck cards, but everyone loves to cold foil out their equipment. Kind of a universal phenomenon there. So yeah, kind of a slept-on card, kind of an underrated card. Next card I want to talk about is Gallantry Gold. Again, really good with the Visit the Golden Anvil, and it's also a equipment piece that gives you both defense and offensive value, which I think if you're visiting the Golden Anvil, that's like exactly what you're looking for, because your opponent could just like start turtling up on you, and then like you have this equipment that only blocks, and it's just not going to work unless like you can provide offensive value like these cards can. I'm not sure that you need 3 of them, because maybe you just Gallantry into a you know, Iron Song Versus or something like that. But still, it's a pretty cheap card, especially from Monarch. The cold foils from Monarch do go kind of crazy, the commons, when they're good. Think like Halo of Illumination or the Shadow headpiece. What's it called? Ebon Fold. So yeah, if Gallantry Gold ever comes back in the meta, I would expect big things from it. Up the ante foil, I actually stand by this investment. It's one of the only foils that have the stripe foil as well. The pitch stripe is foiled out. I think they were doing a little bit of experimenting, seeing how they liked it. But it was like Up the Ante, Corrosive Tendency, and Sonata Galaxia, I think, are the only cards that have ever had this treatment done. And I very much like it. It's pretty sick looking, so I don't know if they're ever going to return to that or not. But pretty cool to have that nonetheless. Moving on, just have some generically good warrior cards here. Iron Song Response. I only have it EA because I feel like this card is kind of just begging to be power grab, so I don't want to invest in like the foil EAs. It's not a card I'm like super confident is going to stick around, whereas something like Slice and Dice I'm much more confident in, so I'm happy to max rarity out the Slice and Dices, right? In the swing, another card I am pretty confident in, and I think all of these like more generic alternate art Team Covenant promo cards are like just disgustingly cheap. Think like In the Swing or 0 to 60 or I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but those are 2 really good examples. And In the Swing is like $10, $12 at the time of recording this. Disgustingly cheap. I think it's disgustingly cheap. Shift the Tide of Battle. This card was like $2 or $3 when I got it. And yeah, it just could be played in Kasai, so that's why I keep it around. Goblet of Blood Run Wine. I think this card is also kind of being slept on at the moment. We know the new warrior likes to take setup turns with the stance cards, the agility stance and the power stance and whatnot. And then, you know, your blue base and warrior is like not heavily contested. So you can get away with playing like 1 or 2 copies of these. Maybe on your setup turn, you'll play a Goblet of Blood Run Wine into a power stance or something, right? So it just kind of extends your setup turns, allows you to, you know, have even crazier overlapping damage. And these are like $2 each right now, so I highly recommend picking them up. I think they're pretty good pickup. Moving on, Raise an Army, the Centauri Sellswords, the Blood on Our Hands. You could tell I am a big Kasai fan. I actually do have one of these promo packs still sealed. I just wound up I think I got that from like a calling I wasn't expecting on attending, so I thought I had to buy a Raisin Army, so I, you know, attended 3 callings, right? But I didn't think I would attend the 3rd one, so I bought this, and I just haven't opened that other promo pack yet. I don't know if I want to. I probably will, just for the sake of making the binder look good. I'll probably open it and then sell the Raisin Army and put the sellsword in there. But yeah, moving forward, I probably shouldn't be buying stuff like this if I'm looking to have this very diverse collection that encompasses all the classes, right? Something like this, the money could just be better spent elsewhere. Moving on, commanding performance. I think this one could be making a big comeback with that new Provoke card that's coming in the Hunted. This one was one of those cards that was just so insanely hyped when it came out. And be wary for that on every set. Like this set as well. I'm going to do a full breakdown going over every Majestic and Legendary in the set, where I think they're going to fall price-wise. And by the time you see this video, that will actually be live for members only. So at the end of the video, I'll link it. Go ahead, join the membership. It's $3 a month. And I'll talk about all of the cards that I think are just disgustingly overpriced and the cards I think are underpriced. But I remember when this card first came out, it was disgustingly overpriced. It was like $30, $40. So yeah, just waited for that to come down and bought me a playset. Glistening Steel Blade is just begging for a reprint. This came in the Reinhardt vs. Dorinthia deck. Yeah, it's going to get reprinted eventually for sure, and I'm just kind of holding the bag on it just in case I need to wind up playing Dawnblade Dorinthia. I really should probably just get rid of them. I have the Cleave and the Route. It's kind of just fillers, placeholders. I do have like more Cleaves and Routes. They just didn't quite fit anywhere in the binder, so I threw one of each there. Moving on. Emboldened Blade, Bright Lights, expansion slot card. We know these go crazy when they're good. So I like to have them just in case they get good and you need them. And I talked about Emboldened Blade recently on a Market Watch, so I won't get too much into it, but I'm a big believer in this card as of right now. Okay, Run Through. This is another one of those promo cards from that Evergreen Armory kit. I just don't think that Armory kit did super well. And, you know, cards like this I think are just really good pickups from there, just because of how rare that Armory kit probably is. And Run Through itself is already a rare card because I think it only came in this Armory kit and in that Reinhardt vs. Dorinthia deck. Moving on, I actually really want to talk about these. Agile Windup. This is the EA non-foil Agile Windup. Looks sick, right? But this is from the Blitz collection decks. Dude, those Blitz collection decks are a banger. Every single set, they just are bangers. So from here on out, I'm buying at least one Blitz collection deck set of every set that comes out forever. Because sometimes the EAs are just like Blue Agile Windup EA. And it's like, this card could literally be good 5 years from now. You know what I mean? So I really like it. I definitely need to pick up another yellow one just in case I wind up playing it. Same with Runner. Here's another one that could just be played 10 years from now. And this is a calling promo from the Heavy Hitters days. I think all of these calling promo, like more generic kind of cards, like are just gonna go totally crazy one day. Like 5 years from now, 3 years from now, if Runner is played, this card's gonna go nuts. I really should get a third one. I just don't have any immediate reason to want to do that. Moving on, I have all my Brute stuff. You know, you have the very safe investments, right? Like the Bone Breaker, the Scaling Flesh Bag. You should definitely have these cold foil. They're probably going to be played for years to come. Same with Savage Sash. It's only rainbow, but very good card nonetheless. Scabbies, of course, is going to be played for a long time. And then I have some like more filler in the book, right? Like I have a cold foil Skull Crushers. That's just there for the art. It just looks cool. Dig Up Dinner, I think, has always been a very slept-on card. It's like a sigil and a remembrance built into one. Sigil of Solace and Remembrance built into one on a blue block 3. It's kind of insane, and it would be very good in any kind of long game-oriented Brute. We just haven't really seen one of those. I guess there's Club Rhinar, and if that deck ever became popular, I guess Dig Up Dinner would be good as well. But this card's like $2, so if you don't have it, I definitely recommend it. I got my Reckless Swings. We've talked about how super rares are kind of Gaining a lot of traction, gaining a lot of value on the market. And yeah, Reckless Swing is no exception. I think the foil's up to like $6 or $8, which doesn't sound like a lot, but considering these cards were like literally bulk, like they were basically considered rare, like rare, the rare rarity, like the, you know, the blue little symbol at the bottom. That's how we used to consider them. So to see them get any kind of value is kind of crazy. Smashback Ailhorn sees some play in Levia. I've never felt compelled to get the second and third copy, although I probably should. Here's an interesting one as well. This is, I think this is from the Rhinar and Duranthea deck, but it's basically a Marvel, just not foil. So you can get this for like pennies on the dollar, right? It's on the back of the tip card. But if I'm ever playing as Rhinar, I'd rather play this than, you know, just the regular Rhinar hero. Looks pretty sick. And yeah, it's probably like basically free. It's not even on TCG Player. But yeah, there's these kind of cards for many heroes. And as we go through my collection, you'll see more and more of them. I think that's the only one I have in this binder, but you'll see many more as we go on. This Chief Ruckton was from that, also from that Evergreen Armory. It looks sick, but it's a Blitz card, so who cares? Moving on, a lot of other just generically good Brute cards. I have these Wrecker Romps. These are Armory promo from way back in the day. They're literally LGS 005. So yeah, they're like one of the first promos ever. And this is non-foil because the foils, at the time when I bought these, which like was when KO was already deemed to be good, right? The foils were like $30 and these were like $3. So I'm like, yeah, let's just get these, call it a day. And I probably should go back and revisit the foil Wrecker Romps because I know they've come down quite a bit since then. Other than that, you know, Beast Within, obviously a very powerful card. You know, some of the stuff here is a little bit more niche, right? Like Savage Beatdown's only really good against like fatigue and stuff. Send Packing kind of sometimes makes the cut, you know, whatever. But yeah, foil Brute stuff. I am somewhat of a fan of Brute, I guess. Not really. I guess I like KO, and that's the only Brute I really like, so I don't know why I have so much of it foil. But so many of these cards like Swing Big, Blood Rush Bellow, Pulping Red EA, you know, I feel very safe investing into these kind of cards. With the Run Rough Shots and many of my other foil Armory deck cards, there's plenty of people in this game, and I'm sure you guys know this, that refuse to foil out their cards because they think like maybe the judge will DQ them or something if they have foil cards in their deck. I don't know. But oftentimes, if you open an Armory deck, you could just ask people, like, can I give you my non-foil for your foil? And they might just say yes. I always offer them a little bit of money, a couple dollars, or, you know, like a $5 card or something like that on top of it, just to kind of entice them. But that's a pretty good way to go about getting a playset of foils, if that's what you're into. Not everyone's into it, and I get that, but that's what I like to do. This is my collection. I'm telling you about it. Smashing Performance and Arg Smash. Probably not super likely that, you know, items and Brutes exist at the same time in the meta. But if they ever do, I guess you definitely want to be ready for that. No Fear, probably one of my favorite cards ever. I love this card. Like playing this against a new. I was playing KO into new the other day, and they like attacked with a bonds, react, and mask me, and I'm like, all right, on the mask, I'll No Fear my entire hand. It's just crazy. I love that card. Splatter Skull, I probably should get 2 more copies of it. It could be a good card one day, I guess, but haven't gotten around to it. Like I said, holes in the collection. And I like to keep a lot of space in these binders as well, just like in case they put out a Brute expansion slot card, right? Like they just did with the Hunted. I don't want to have to reorganize the entire binder to accommodate for that one expansion slot card. So I just try and leave a little bit of space everywhere, just in case something like that happens. Double Down. If you look at like the stats and the rate on this card, it actually is quite good. This is the EA Double Down. This came in the same pack as Talk a Big Game and Runner. So that pack was pretty juiced, but I only got 2 of them clearly, and I need a 1/3 of each of those cards. But I think Double Down is very good. It's just, the problem is it's only very good in Olympia and Betsy, and neither of those heroes have quite seen their day yet. So we're still waiting on Double Down. Talk a Big Game is probably the worst of the 3 that came in that pack. But you know, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy this card, right? But since I pulled it, okay, fine. I'll put it in here. Maybe one day it'll be good. I know it's seen like some very niche play, but maybe one day it'll be actually good. Who knows? Moving on. Slap Happy. I think this one actually is like one of the most slept on cards in this whole book, because Fang, if he is more redline, then Slap Happy seems kind of crazy in that deck. I don't know. The Go Again seems easier than the Resource, right? So Take It on the Chin is maybe more Kasai focused, whereas Slap Happy is maybe more Bolton focused or Fang focused, right? So yeah, both of these cards, when they were like very good and like the meta or the market kind of squeezed on both of these cards at one point, and they were like $10, $15 each, and they're both like $1 or $2 at the time of recording. Moving on, we're on the Guardian stuff now. I guess we'll start with Pulverize. Pulverize is just one of those cards that is way too cheap, right? The foil Pulverize is like $10, but the EA is like $30, and this is an Everfest Majestic EA. This card's gonna be crazy one day. And then Pulverize, you know, with all of the potential Seismic Surge synergies and whatnot that are coming in the future, you know, we know we're getting Adult Volda. You know, it's definitely possible that Volda wants to play like 3 Pulverize because she just has that much access to Seismic Surge synergies, right? Who knows? But either way, I think it's way too cheap right now. Yeah, we talked about the Spinal Crushes. You guys should definitely have those. Terra Sunder is also kind of an interesting one because it came from Tales of Aria, and it's one of the only like non-talented cards in Tales of Aria. So if a few years go by where we don't get a return to Aria, then less and less Tales of Aria is going to be opened, and then, you know, the cards people need from Tales are going to go crazy, right? And Terra Sunder could be one of those cards that are needed, right? Moving on, Gauntlets of Iron Will. I still think this card is very powerful. Obviously not in Jarl, it's not making the cut, but still one of the best generic Guardian arms. I guess it's the best generic Guardian arms that we have. Tech Plating, I've never believed in. I've always thought Tunic was just way better. Titan's Fist, here's an interesting one. Titan's Fist is up to like, what, $70 or $80 right now for the cold foil? And it's, yeah, sure, it's played in Jarl, and you could say that's why it's going up, which, like, yeah, temporarily in the short term, true. But it's really going up because it's not a signature weapon, and we kind of talked about that with the Centauri Saber. So that just goes to show I'm probably not the only one that's in that headspace, right? There's definitely other cards on the market that are not signature weapons, that are cold foil, that are good, that haven't gone crazy yet. So think of something like a Waning Moon that could be played in every Wizard forever, and the cold foil is still only like $20. It's just not played right this second. Once a new Wizard comes that plays it, or maybe once one of the existing Wizards want to play it, yeah, that card will also be $60 or $80 very quickly. Moving on, Civic Steps. Weirdly enough, what ruined the value of Civic Steps is the Guardian Mastery Pack that came out in Japan. I guess it's not called a Guardian Mastery Pack. It's called like an Archive Pack or something. But since Civic Steps is just a rare, that set isn't huge, that Japanese set. So the Civic Steps are very easy to pull from that. Like pretty much every box you're going to get a Civic Steps, at least one. So yeah, it's kind of ruining all of the values of Civic Steps everywhere. But also, I guess I'm recording this like as Prague is live. So, I mean, now we know that the generic boots are out, so I guess that's all irrelevant. The generic, like, D-React boots are out, so you're not even ever going to play Civic Steps again. But anyway, moving on. I don't have many alpha cards, many pink strip cards, but Debilitate's one of the ones I do have. It was, like, cheap enough for me to justify it. I think I found a playset for, like, $20 for the playset. So... So why not, right? If they're that cheap, might as well pick them up. Tectonic Rift, we've talked about it. Bright Lights expansion slot cards go crazy when they're good. With Volda coming and everything, I think it's definitely possible that Tectonic Rift could become good at some point. Disable, another one of my few pink strip cards that I own. I think it's a very good card in Victor. I like it a lot, so I probably should pick up 2 more, honestly. Moving on, here's my Guardian blue base right here. I guess pretty much every Guardian fan, I would recommend to have these. They're only like, I think these are like $8 each, and then these are like $3 each, and these are like $3 each. So at least the EAs, you should pick up a playset up. They're just so cheap. And, you know, as we march closer to that Guardian Mastery pack, I'm afraid stuff like this is going to start disappearing. Moving on, here's my Bravo and Betsy stuff. Yeah, I shouldn't have bought these foil. I shouldn't have bought these foil. I shouldn't have bought these foil. But yeah, here we are. These are all the specializations. This is the stuff I'm talking about that I'm going to see a lot less play with these cards than most of the other cards, right? This Betsy, I actually don't regret getting foil. I bought it not even that long ago, maybe like a week or 2 weeks ago. Foil was only $8. I actually got that one from a local too. Shout out to Gammy TCG for that one. Good Time Chapeau. We kind of touched on this a little bit when we talked about the Olympia headpiece. But yeah, once Betsy becomes good, I think the cold foil of Good Time Chapeau will go a little bit crazy for sure, at least temporarily. So could be a good investment opportunity there. Victor, definitely my favorite Guardian. This is the Guardian that made me fall in love with Guardian. So I'm actually happy to get all of his stuff foil. I very much enjoy this hero. Something about gold tokens and drawing cards on your opponent's turn. Yeah, blocking 4 and drawing a card is definitely a hell of a drug. So I'm happy to get this stuff foiled because I like Victor so much. And that's all I have in this binder. This video is getting quite long, but there's plenty of other binders where that came from. I have, you know, an Outsiders binder, an Uprising binder, a Tales of Aria binder. So if you guys want to see any of that stuff, or if you enjoyed this video at all, please let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, comment, rate, subscribe, and help the algorithm help me out just a little bit. Later, gamers.